Hi greedy 3Ders. When folk first get into resin 3D printing, we all know there can be a steep learning curve, especially regarding the settings. Some of the most misunderstood settings they have to deal with, but important ones nonetheless, relate to bottom exposure. Now, thankfully that's not something you can get arrested for these days. The process sounds simple on the surface. You increase the exposure of the first few layers on the print so that it sticks to the build plate. But in reality, bottom exposure controls the entire foundation of the print, and getting it wrong can create a whole list of problems before the model even begins to print properly. If the bottom exposure time is too low, for example, the print may not adhere to the build plate at all. Instead of forming a solid base, the first layer remains partially cured and therefore very, very weak. During the first lifting movements, those layers can peel away from the plate and the cured resin chooses to stick to the FEP or the release film instead. This is one of the most common reasons for failed prints, especially with larger models or prints that have that high suction force. You may also see warped bases, missing supports, or prints that begin correctly but then detach halfway through the printing process. I'm sure we've all seen this. On the flip side of the coin, too much bottom exposure creates an entirely different problem of its own. The resin cures far beyond what is necessary, creating an extremely hard and over-bonded, almost glue-like foundation. This can be seen notably when the print becomes excessively difficult to remove from the build plate, sometimes feeling almost welded into that metal surface of the plate itself. And you know what it's like, you have to chisel it off with your metal spatula. Now in severe cases you can damage your scraper, you can gouge the plate, or even crack your models trying to remove them. Overexposed bottom layers can also create something called an elephant's foot. This is where the first layers spread outwards and lose dimensional accuracy. Fine detail near the base of the model becomes distorted because the resin has cured beyond its intended boundaries. The number of bottom layers also plays a major role here. Bottom exposure time and bottom layer count should in theory work together to form a perfect foundation for the rest of your print. A higher number of bottom layers increases the overall strength of adhesion because more heavily cured layers are stacked together before transitioning into those normal exposure values for the rest of the print. For example, 5 heavily exposed bottom layers 25 seconds each create a dramatically stronger bond than 3 bottom layers at say 15 seconds each. Increasing both settings incorrectly can quickly push that base resin adhesion far beyond what is actually required. One mistake many beginners make is assuming that stronger adhesion always means more reliable printing. Well, in reality, the goal is not maximum adhesion. The goal is controlled adhesion. You want the print to hold securely during the peeling process while still remaining removable after the print completes. Resin printing is always a balancing act between sufficient grip during printing and practical post-print removal afterwards. To hit that sweet spot for bottom exposure depends on a number of variables. Firstly, different resins. Now, not just by brand here, but also by the kind of resin that you're using. Maybe ABS, maybe standard, tough, just some examples there. They can cure differently at different rates. Pigment density matters significantly too, meaning the colour of your resin is also a factor, especially with opaque colours like orange, blacks, dark greys. They need more curing time potentially than maybe white or translucent resins need. The layer height you choose for your print also can change exposure needs as well. A printer running at a 0.03mm layer height may require different exposure values than one printing at say 0.05mm. And then there's temperature too. That can also affect curing behaviour because colder resin becomes thicker and more viscous and less reactive, hence the need for resin heaters. This is why dialing in exposure settings are so important, and they should always be approached methodically rather than randomly increasing values, especially after your failures. The first step is to establish a known baseline, and one of the best places to start is the resin manufacturer's very own website. Most reputable resin brands publish recommended exposure ranges, and they also can do that for common printers too. These numbers are far from perfect final settings, but they give you a reliable baseline to start with. If the manufacturer says a normal exposure should be, let's say 2.2 seconds and bottom exposure around 25 seconds on a mono LCD printer, don't immediately jump to random settings from a stranger online. They may be using a different machine at different temperatures, resin, batch, colour, etc. and their perfect results may be chaos to you. Having said that, of course, community forums are another great resource, especially places like Reddit and Discord groups, and resin printing forums can be helpful. But the trick is understanding context. Someone saying 2.8 seconds works perfectly means almost nothing unless they also mention what printer they're using, what resin type, what layer height, what colour, what room temperature, and what firmware generation. The list just goes on and on. Exposure settings are not just universal. Another thing people often overlook is mechanical setup. Exposure settings cannot compensate for a badly levelled build plate, a damaged release film, loose Z-axis components, or dirty resin splattered screens. If your printer hardware is inconsistent, your exposure results may be by default. They can also be inconsistent. Once you've established what you feel is a good starting point, now would be the right time to print a small calibration model, instead of your large production prints that will disappoint you in the end. Exposure test models, and here I quite like the Frozen XP test. It's small but it's concise, but you may have your favourite one to allow you to judge detail sharpness and dimension accuracy, support reliability and all the important adhesion without wasting large amounts of resin, time and money. Amend the settings in your chosen slicer to match your best, most educated guess and hit print. If the print struggles to stay attached to the build plate, slightly increase the bottom exposure time, or alternatively, just add one more additional bottom layer. If the print becomes extremely difficult to remove, reduce the bottom exposure in small increments, usually 1 or 2 seconds at a time. Large adjustments often create new problems instead of solving the original one. So unfortunately, this process may be a case of trial and error. There's just no way around it sometimes. This is also where RERF tests, that's resin exposure rangefinder tests, are extremely useful. Supported on some printers, RERF prints multiple exposure values on a single job, allowing direct comparison on main print cure times, but not really allowing those base layers to be changed. When evaluating a RERF result, focus on text, sharpness, corner definition, support reliability, small holes and dimensional accuracy, not just what looks good at first glance. Again, doesn't really always help with base layers, but at least gives you an idea you're in the right ballpark and you can amend it and change it to try to get it to work. Another important factor is transition layers. Transition layers gradually reduce exposure between the heavily cured bottom layers and the normal printing layers. Without proper transition layers, the model can develop a visible stress line where the exposure suddenly changes. I've definitely had this on my GK3 Pro, where the incorrect transition layers meant failed prints, and changing those sorted the problem, so don't overlook it. Lift settings also influence adhesion behaviour. Slower initial lift speeds reduce those peel forces and allow the cured resin to separate from the release film more gently. This means you may not need excessively high bottom exposure times to keep the print attached. Many users compensate for aggressive lift speeds by dramatically increasing exposure, when in reality the better solution may be improving the motion settings instead. Some printer companies help reduce peeling forces using some new and innovative ways. Hey Gears, for example, have the pulsing release module, which forces air under the release film, helping to tease that resin off it. Anycubic's P1 and P1 Max have a bubbly release surface on its screen to allow small amounts of air between the resin and the release film to reduce that peeling force. The Saturn 16K and the Saturn 5 on the other hand has a tilting vat to gently help ease the resin free gradually. So again, one exposure setting that works great on one printer with one certain resin may not work on another printer, as lots of variables can be in play. Your model orientation too, well, that can also help reduce peeling forces. You can hollow and add drainage holes in your prints and ensure that you don't add large flat areas directly to your build plate, as that can increase all the suction forces exponentially. Instead, make sure you tilt large prints at an angle, add sufficient supports, etc. The type of release film you're using, well, yep, that's just something else that matters as well. Traditional FEP film behaves differently from newer materials like NFEP or ACF films. Some films reduce release forces significantly, allowing lower exposure times while maintaining successful adhesion. Again, it's just another thing to consider. I guess this is a good time to discuss another important element, the locked ecosystem. Now, some people will love them, some people will hate them, and it spurs such emotions in 3D printer folk. And by that, I mean manufacturers like Haygears and Formlabs, and to some degree most other 3D printer manufacturers who encourage you to use their resins and their slicer, maybe not lock you in, but encourage you. One major advantage of using matching hardware, resin and slicer software from the same manufacturer is preset tuning. For example, when using the Anycubic resin on an Anycubic printer and the official Anycubic slicer profiles, the company, Anycubic, has already tested exposure ranges, tested lift speeds, layer transitions specifically for that combination, and while these presets are not always 100% perfect, they provide a much stronger starting point than a completely generic profile. The same principle applies to manufacturers, more so companies like Formlabs and Haygears. Haygears especially has built much of its ecosystem around tightly controlled hardware, material integration. Their printer resins and slicer settings are designed as a unified workflow rather than separate independent components. And because of this, many of the exposure variables are already heavily optimized at the factory level, and no user input at all is required to change them. The goal is consistency and reliability rather than forcing you to manually tune every parameter from scratch, and it works really, really, really well. This closed ecosystem approach, of course, has advantages and disadvantages. The biggest advantage is predictability, fewer fouled prints because the materials and the machines were designed together. Exposure settings, motion systems and resin chemistry are all tuned as part of the same process. The downside is reduced flexibility if you want it, and usually higher material costs, although that is changing, especially with Haygears. I have to just add here that Haygears will soon be opening up its software to permit tinkering the settings in its open mode. That's if you want to, but it also allows you to stay using their own preset settings if you'd rather choose it. Hey, that's the best of both worlds, I guess. In contrast, more open systems provide greater experimentation potential, but require more calibration knowledge from the user, and sometimes that just doesn't meet a beginner's needs. Mixing third-party resins, custom slicer settings and different film types can produce excellent results, but success depends much more heavily on understanding how all the variables interact in the first place. And for beginners, like I said, it can be quite a daunting thing, hence why so many people do prefer this matching locked ecosystem approach. Ultimately, bottom exposure time is one of the most critical settings in resin printing because it controls the entire foundation of the print. Too little exposure creates weak adhesion and fouled prints. Too much exposure creates excessive bonding, dimensional distortion and chiseling your prints off the build plate. It's probably a good idea just to tell you why I decided to make this video, because I did a print using some brand new resin and I never checked my exposure settings before I did it. I did not follow my own advice and the model was absolutely welded to the build plate. The quality of the print was fine, but I had such a problem getting the actual print off the build plate. So what I did was I took a frozen XP test and I went into the settings, and the settings were set to 25 for the timings and they were set as you would expect, 5 bottom layers at 25 seconds. So I ran that test through the printer and I printed the XP test without changing any of the settings, and yet the actual XP test was so hard to get off. It did come off, but it was so hard to get off that when it did, it ended up being broken and I couldn't get it off in one piece. Now the quality of the print was absolutely fine, the detail was fine, but it had broken so much it wasn't worth it and nothing had changed on this print. So I went back into the slicer settings and I changed it from 25 down to 22 seconds. I reran the frozen XP test using the same resin, and this time it literally just glided off almost too easily. It was too easy to come off. And although the quality was absolutely fine, a little bit of the corner of the printer lifted, so it was just showing me that it was just underexposing on the base layers. So knowing this information, I went back into the slicer settings, I changed it up 1 second to 23, and that was the sweet spot, and prints after that have been absolutely fine. Now, getting prints off the bottom of your build plate has always been an issue, and companies over the years have tried to sort this out. I'm going back here a few years when this flexible plate that was adhered onto your build plate, and there was a couple of brands did this. This was a Green Tech World one, and you literally just pulled this magnetic plate off your build plate that you had to stick it on with some adhesive and give it a bit of a flex, and that used to pop your models off. So, you know, adhesion onto your build plate has always been an issue for 3D printing, and it's still something that's an issue today. All right, it's not as bad, but it's there. The Form 4 came up with a brilliant flexible build plate option too, which is built into their system, which is an amazing bit of kit, and it does the job wonderfully. And also other innovative solutions from Pio Create, as an example, had a twisty build plate that popped your models off. So this has always been an issue for us 3D printer folk. The best results come from either predetermined ecosystems like Hay Gears, Formlabs, or using printer manufacturers' own resins, their own slicers combined. And if you don't want that solo ecosystem, if you'd rather play with the settings yourself, then a controlled calibration, gradual adjustments and understanding, that will give you good, successful base layer printing. It's about balance, gathering information, testing and then tweaking. But for some, yeah, that's just the fun of the hobby. I hope you found some of this interesting. It's a little bit of a minefield, I know it is, but I do hope you've taken something out of this. And what I would really like you guys to do is leave in the comments what you feel about bottom layers. What have you had success with? What times, what transition layers, what number of bottom layers do you always use reliably? And what printer are you using? What resin are you using? What settings are you using? As in, temperature, let me know your environment, all those kind of things, because everybody will read those settings and read these comments, and they will then be able to sort of make their own judgment, make their own mind of what works for them. It is a minefield, but you know what? It's a minefield that we can navigate quite sensibly around. If you want to support the channel, you can do it in a number of ways. Please subscribe to the channel. It's quick, it's free, it's simple. Most people that watch the videos don't subscribe, and I really would appreciate if you could just take that second to hit the subscribe button. Please like this and share it with your friends. If you've agreed with me, if you've not agreed with me, leave me a comment. It all helps the video, it helps the algorithm, it helps the channel grow. We do have a Patreon. If you want to join the Patreon, you will have access to the Greedy 3D Patreon, and on here you can have a discussion about your exposure settings and times if you so wish. Thank you for watching today. I really do appreciate it. I know this subject is a little bit of a minefield. I know perhaps also it's something that scares a lot of beginners. It certainly scared me when I first started the hobby, but I just hope that some of what I've said today has helped you on your 3D printing journey. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time on Greedy 3D.